towards the beginning, I would hook up with other girls. And I was always honest with her about it. So that was my excuse. It's like, well, I'm being honest with her about it. Like, it's fine. Like, I'm not hiding anything.
I can't put myself out there anymore. I can't give myself to anyone. I don't trust people. Just stay away.
Oh, and this is where it gets really toxic. Oh, well, my ex did this and you don't do this. It's like, wait, did you ever tell me that you feel appreciated when I do that?
Let's just keep going, kumbaya, it's okay. I'll take one on the chin.
We have a lot more men nowadays that are very weak, that are very unintegrated. Women are a lot more fearful nowadays because there's a lot of men that are very creepy. If you know who you are and you're connected to that, dating is easy. The first date you go on with someone, they're right for me, they're not. It really is that simple. Because I left that relationship feeling completely broken. And after it was just I had this realization about a week after me and her broke up, and I'm just like, that relationship made me feel like I was nothing.
Hello everyone, welcome back to our podcast. On today's episode, I have another amazing guest for you. His name is Brad Glantz. Welcome, Brad.
Hey, thanks so much for having me. Super excited to be here.
You're welcome. So a brief intro on Brad. Brad is a self-development coach, a YouTuber, a podcaster who has helped countless people shift their mindset, overcome self-doubt, and build resilience. He'll be sharing all of those with us today. We'll learn so much from Brad. So I'm really excited about our conversation. So yeah, Brad, so welcome again to the podcast. And without, wasting time, please tell us about yourself, your background. How do you see yourself? Everything we want to know.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for having me. So I was diagnosed with depression when I was 13. I dealt with that up until I was around 16, until I stumbled upon a YouTube video talking about general men's self-development. And then from there, I realized my life sucked. So I could probably do something to better myself, and just some basic stuff. Start to meditate a little bit, go on walks, get out in nature, start to reconnect with your roots, start to get in the gym a little bit, start to improve your mindset. And so those basic self-help conversations and concepts being integrated with myself really helped me, the snowball effect essentially. So I discovered a few of them, incorporated them, and they got absolutely obsessed with studying different spirituality, religious texts, narratives, and also diving really deep into philosophy, psychology, and then the general self-help that people do on YouTube. So over the last 6 years, I've been absolutely obsessed with that and have taken that depression, completely eliminated it from my life. And now I work with men all over the world, from New Zealand, the United States, Canada, Europe, to help change their lives and become the best versions of themselves, whatever that means for them. And so, yeah, I got into coaching because of one of my first mentors reached out to me and saw I was doing podcasting and YouTube videos. And he's like, have you ever thought about coaching? And I was like, do you feel like I've heard about it before? And so he helped me build out the business side of things, and it's been an absolute blessing so far to not only just put out videos and have people absorb the knowledge and information, but to be able to work with people directly one-on-one and help them through their personal situations is such a beautiful blessing. I can't even express my gratitude enough for it.
Wow, fantastic. No, I respect coaches because I feel like coaching is on another level, because it's one thing to go through a tough experience and another thing to be able to translate that experience to helping others. So I think it's a noble profession. So well done. If you don't mind, do you want to dig deeper into that depression? Because I know, in some areas, in some sectors, people still view depression as a state of mind. It's as though, get over your depression. Why are you depressed, right? Can you dig deeper into the depression you suffered and how did you overcome it? How did all of that happen?
Yeah, that's a really good question. And yeah, I mean, look, I'm not a medical professional. I'm not a doctor. So people like to debate till the end of eternity if depression is even a real diagnosis. I'm not here to say it is or isn't. Like, for example, there's some clients and people I work with that are diagnosed with depression, and I'm in no way, shape, or form guaranteeing that you're not going to be depressed anymore clinically. But at least for my experience, I was diagnosed by a doctor and completely overcame it. And so I think, people talk about genetic factors. I think for me, it was a lot more situational, a lot more losing my friends at a younger age, feeling like I was always an outcast, feeling like ever since I was 13, 14 years old, I started to look at life a little bit deeper, but I didn't know how to actually interact with any concepts. And I hated school. I hated everything around me. And so I just woke up every day, hated going to school, lost all my friends, and I feel like I was just in this bubble. I was stuck. And so the depression for a lot of people is an unconscious mind, because a lot of people in the motivation guys online just say, oh, depression is a mindset, just get over it. It's so dismissive, and it's actually disgusting in the way that people talk about it. Depression is very deep, whether you believe it's real or not. The experience itself is real, whether the clinical diagnosis people want to argue is real or not. So, and every single person's reasoning as to why they're experiencing what they're experiencing is different. Sometimes it's based on a relationship partner breaking up with them. Sometimes it's a deep traumatic experience from childhood. It ranges from so many different things. So to just disengage and say it's just a mindset is I hate when people say that. And I work with people who have had people say that to them.
Yeah.
And so you really want to dive into and analyze what caused this. And that's the thing, to clarify that depression is a mindset, it's an unconscious mindset. So you get stuck. You have a few bad experiences, you get traumatized, whatever the case is, you get stuck in this state of consciousness that's fear, shame, guilt, regret, and some of this comes, and here's the thing, when things happen to you that cause you to be depressed, we often internalize it, of course, we take it personally, and then a lot of the guilt and shame and fear and anger and resentment that we once portrayed out to everybody else and the people who actually did something to us is now secretly being torn towards ourselves. And so that's what we don't understand, is we always think, well, I'm just mad at this person for doing this to me, or this situation happened. It's like, no, now you're beating yourself up for it, because it's revealing something deeper about you, and it has created a wound and insecurity of, well, okay, this thing happened to me, that means I'm not worthy of love, or that means I'm not good enough, or that means if I don't get these 5 things done every day, I need to be depressed, or whatever the case is. But here's also the reality of it. Most of us don't live a life that we enjoy. We hate what we do for work. We hate what we're studying in school. And then that causes us to what? Hate ourselves and hate our experiences. And then that manifests itself in our relationships. And then on the romantic relationship side, a lot of partners are simply mirrors to us. And then when somebody mirrors back to us our insecurities and our wounds, we blame them for doing that, when really we should thank them for triggering a part of us that is, because you only get triggered by anything because it's internal. There's a beautiful spiritual teacher named Wayne Dyer. I love listening to his lectures, and he gives a very basic example. So it sounds almost stupid when you hear it, but it's very beautiful. So he is in a live lecture in front of an audience, and he says to them, okay, if you take a lemon and you squeeze it, what comes out? Okay, lemon juice, of course.
Lemon juice,
If you
yeah.
squeeze an orange, what comes out? Orange juice, of course, it's obvious. He's like, okay, when somebody squeezes you, when somebody makes you upset, angry, what comes out? Because there may be something, somebody may say the same exact thing, same exact phrase, in the same exact tone of voice to you and to me. And maybe when they say it to you, you have an anger level of 2 out of 10. And then maybe when they say it to me, I have an anger level of 9 out of 10. And so it's like, it's the exact same thing. It's just triggering something deeper within me. So I have to ask myself, why am I getting so upset about this? And so to get back to the root of the question, to start to address depression, we have to first find why we even have it in the first place. And a lot of people say, and a lot of people self-diagnose themselves, and they say, like, I'm just depressed, and they haven't been outside in the last 2 years. Like, you go outside to go in your car and drive to work, but other than that, like, you spend 0 time in nature. We forget that even though we're very highly conscious intellectual beings, at our roots we're animals, and animals enjoy spending time in nature because that's where we were born and where we're meant to be. And I like to tell people all the time, like, even you and I both being inside right now, we can be so grateful, and it's great that we have air conditioning, and it's great that we have a safe place to stay and live, but fundamentally we weren't meant to live like this. We were meant to be outside all the time. And so simply, it's like sometimes I'm depressed is like, you just need to start to exercise. You need to stop doing just a few small habits. I had one of my clients call me this morning, and he literally said, this is a new guy that starts working with me. And he's like, after just 1-2 sessions, like I stopped vaping. I started going to the gym. I am starting to put boundaries up in my life. And it's like, this is so beautiful. It's like just the small shifts can sometimes change everything. And sometimes for a lot of people, it's a lot more deeper rooted, where it's like this really traumatizing thing happened to you when you were a child. That's a lot more intricate to deal with. But a lot of our depression that we like to call and diagnose ourselves with is really just a lack of sunlight, lack of exercise, lack of maybe nutrition in our lives, lack of a positive mentality, and also core values in our life. Because if we have standards and fundamental values that we truly connect to, such as honesty, making sure I'm content, making sure I'm putting boundaries in place, making sure somebody does this and this to me, I'm not willing to compromise on myself to do things for them. It's like a lot of these things are conversations we don't have, and since we never have them, we never internalize anything positive, and we're just kind of like we're like a slave to our reality around us. Now, our internal always affects the external, but if our internal doesn't have a good compass and we don't know who we are, every single thing that happens in the external, you're just being swayed back and forth over and over again. And then what do you lead yourself to? Depression.
Wow. I've never heard someone like distill and explain, this concept, depression, the way you just did right now. It's completely so true. Someone said it to me, said, before you diagnose yourself with depression, take a look at the people you surround yourself with first and the situation you find yourself in, right? Because, like you said, if you have unhealed wounds, unhealed trauma, the people around you, so long as they keep triggering those things within you, you're just in this heightened state of fight or flight, and it just all of it culminates in depression and feeling bad about yourselves. Wow. Thanks for sharing
Yeah,
that.
absolutely. And I appreciate your explanation of that as well. And it's, yeah, it's like so much
Mm.
of the time we get triggered by something. Like I was saying before, we blame the other person when really we should
Yeah.
be thanking them. It's like, you're giving me an opportunity to learn more about myself and to heal
Mm-hmm.
this part of me. Because that's all pain. That's all processing pain is we get
Mm-hmm.
so mad, and especially as men, we like to distance ourselves from pain the second it comes up. We distract ourselves. We get addicted to things. We bottle up our emotions. And while we do that, we simply neglect ourselves, and then we neglect our soul and our whole experience on earth, and then of
Mm-hmm.
course leads us to depression. But there's so many things we can do to start to not cope with it, but actually heal it.
Healing. No, I like how you said, we should thank those people who trigger those things within us and see it as an opportunity to heal. Because a lot of times in today's world, and I wanted to speak a bit about this, we label those people as toxic, right? So it's never our fault. It's never something within me that person is triggering. It's something about them. They're so negative, they're toxic. I need to get away from them, right? So how can we distill, how can we separate between someone actually revealing the true, our true character to ourselves, to us, and someone who is just 100% toxic and we need to distance ourselves from?
That's a beautiful question. I think all of us are very confused on what's actually toxic and what's not, because everybody, what a lot of us do is actually an insecurity within us when we label everyone else as insecure. And it's like, oh, you won't let me do this in my, like, you to your relationship partner. It's like, oh, you don't want me to hang out with my guy or my girlfriends because you're just
Mm-hmm.
insecure. It's like, well, no, I just want to preserve the integrity of our relationship. It's like, you can't see that. Okay, there's not really any values here. So
Mm-hmm.
to really determine this is what I like to do. So anytime I receive any sort of constructive criticism or even an insult, I like to ask myself, no matter how much it triggers me, where are they 1% right? Because there's probably going to be some, even if they're 99% wrong, like there's probably something in there that's a little bit of it that's true. And so if you ask yourself that, then here's the interesting thing, because especially if we're talking about trying to build ourselves up in any point of life, and
Mm-hmm.
sometimes people say these things to us and criticize us and try to bring us down. But if you
Mm-hmm.
take that and find the 1% truth and then improve yourself, you're actually using the thing that they tried to bring you down with and bringing yourself up. But at the root of the question, how to determine if somebody's being toxic, it really boils down to interacting with the truth. So if you very clearly see a part of someone that's being expressed that is manipulative, and then you confront them about that, that's one of the biggest things. Somebody is a toxic person in the general sense, or at least unconscious, and they have toxic behavior patterns. If you confront them on something, and their immediate pushback all the time is, I'm right and you're wrong. We see this in many modern day conversations, with not even just political conversations aside. We've allowed those perceptive mechanisms to plague every single concept that we believe about ourselves. So another thing we want to ask is, how much of the beliefs that I hold for myself about the world, about myself, about other people is actually true, and how much of it is just, I think this is what I should be doing. And here's the thing, a lot of us have been hurt in the past by past romantic relationships, by friendships,
Mm-hmm.
by family members, and so we're left with a little bit of conditioning and programming
Mm-hmm.
that doesn't lead us to the best place possible. And we let that insecurity and those wounds guide our moral compass. And then this causes us to have a poor moral compass. And then, of course, anytime we're confronted with anything, there's no account. So that's one of the most toxic behaviors possible. You know somebody's a toxic person when they can take zero accountability for what they've done. Now, that being said, if someone's confronting you about something and then you notice that a part of them confronting you is them not facing a part of themselves, it's
Mm-hmm.
important to confront that too. But let's first start with what we're talking about and us, and not just because that's what most arguments and relationships are. They're deflecting. We all have heard the quote, when you're in a relationship, it has to be you guys against the problem. You're on a team, not you against each other. Everyone likes to say that. 99%
Mm-hmm.
of relationships are you guys against each other. It's screaming arguments. It's, you said this, so I did that because you did this. And it's like, and so the beautiful thing about my relationship with my partner is we have never once labeled each other as a name or said, oh, I can't believe you do this. It's like, hey, this is what's going on. This is how I'm feeling. What do we need to do? I had a situation with my partner about a week or two ago, and we felt a little bit disconnected from each other. And she looks at me and she's like, what do we need to do right now? It's like, how many relationships do you guys ask each other those questions instead of
Mm-hmm.
labeling and I can't believe you did this? Those are toxic things. Now, that being said, I want to make it very clear that just because somebody does something like that, it doesn't mean that they can't heal, and it doesn't mean that they're a toxic person. Because we all have unconscious toxic manipulative tendencies because of our past
True.
experiences,
Yep.
and we're always trying to avoid being hurt. And here's the thing: when you get so locked into the unconscious toxic patterns, one of my mentors, Naftali Moses, says this beautiful example. He's like, in our relationships, we're trying to beat each other to the stab when there wasn't even a stab coming. It's like, I need to hurt them before they hurt me, or I need to do this to them before they do it to me. I need to cheat on them
Reject
before they
them
cheat
before they
on me.
reject me.
Exactly. And so the ultimate thing here is we think we're protecting ourselves when really not only are we rejecting ourselves, we're rejecting the possibility for a healthy romantic relationship, and we're neglecting the person in front of us before they've even done anything wrong. And here's another toxic pattern: is if you have an expectation for somebody to do something to meet a certain need of yours or desire in a relationship, and when they don't meet that, you get upset at them. And in the first place, you never even told them that that's something that you wanted them to do. So then it'll manifest itself in, oh, and this is where it gets really toxic. Oh, well, my ex did this, and you don't do this. It's like, wait, did you ever tell me that you feel
Hey, you
appreciated
should
when I
be
do
able to
that?
read my mind. You should read my mind because
Exactly. And so that's one of the most, that's another one of the, I think that's particularly a little bit more common for women in my personal experience and interacting with them. And it's kind of like, I want you, women are sometimes a little bit more emotional. And so it's sometimes difficult to interact with the logical side of things. But here's the beautiful thing is an integrated woman that's connected to her femininity and her nature understands that yes, there's going to be times where an emotional experience guides her, and then maybe after she's like, okay, I shouldn't have said that, and that's normal, and men do that too, of course, based on our emotions. But here's the thing that I love a billion things about my relationship partner, but on our first date, we talked about some deep concepts, and I said to her, like, what's one of the things, like, in a relationship that you really value? And the first thing she said to me was, I'm never going to expect you to read my mind. If I have a problem or there's something that's wrong, I'm going to talk to you about it, and I'm just going to let you know how I'm feeling. And just right then and there, I knew that there was something within her that was right for me. And of course, among all of the other things. But these are all parts of us. And here's the beautiful thing is there's a certain amount of healing that's done outside of a relationship, and there's a certain amount of healing that's done in the relationship. One of my last relationships ended, and I went to one of my coaches, and I was worried that I'd bring some of the unprocessed emotional experiences to my next relationship. And so he gave this beautiful example of, well, sometimes there's certain wounds that you have after a heartbreak where you can just start to address and work on. There's other, which of course most people don't ever do in the first place. It's let me go hook up with other people, let me take drugs, let me, whatever you would drink too much alcohol, let me distract myself. Exactly. He brought up this beautiful example, which is there's certain healing you can do by yourself. And there's certain healing that can only be done in the next relationship. Because if somebody's not poking the wound, sometimes you don't know it's there. It's like sometimes if I go to the gym, sometimes my chest is sore because I worked out my chest today. When I'm just walking and I'm not doing anything physical, I don't know that my chest is like broken down a little bit and the muscle has to rebuild itself. But if I poke it, ooh, my chest hurts, right? And so it's like same with wounds. Unless it's being poked, you sometimes don't know it's there. So there were certain wounds and insecurities from a last partnership that manifested itself in my current relationship. But what's the beautiful thing? That we were both aware, and I was communicative with all of this, and she and her wounds was as well. We can actually work through the insecurities and wounds together, which is because that's the thing. Relationships, when they're healthy, are the most beautiful healing process on this entire plane in existence. We often, and a lot of the men I work with kind of like to write off, like, oh, I don't need a relationship, or like, I just want to hook up with girls. And it's like, no, you're just avoiding responsibility and avoiding the depths of your soul. And so those are a few like toxic tendencies that some of us have, and most of us have. And look, beautiful thing is they can be healed. First step is awareness. Okay, I'm aware of the pattern I have. Next time this comes up, and also ask your partner for help. Like, hey, we talked about this. I got angry about this. I shouldn't have gotten this angry. Next time, if there is a next time, I'm going to try to have there not be a next time. But if this part of me gets triggered and I lose myself a little bit in this emotional experience and I'm projecting onto you, can you just let me know, like, hey, remember we had that conversation a week ago? Do you see what you're doing? And then that gives you an opportunity to calm down. Whereas if you just present your anger, most of the time the partner just presents their anger back, and now you're disconnected. And that's one of the other things. We think confrontation and argumentation leads to a disconnection. If you do it right, it leads to every time me and my girlfriend finish an argument or disagreement or a problem, we feel so much closer together because we're actually seeking to understand each other. Most of us are just trying to prove that we're right. If you do not drop your ego in your relationship, you can never be in a healthy partnership. And that's one of the biggest toxic things as well, is not to have a big ego, but not to have it integrated. So we all have big egos to a certain degree. We like to think highly of ourselves. We like to think we're better than we actually are. This is a normal human tendency. The integration process is understanding consciously and logically that you are not perfect, and there's always things we can always grow and learn upon, and that sometimes a certain thing you do in your relationship or present something to someone, it's sometimes wrong. And if you can accept that sometimes you're wrong, you'll become very intelligent and flourish very quickly.
Wow. Wow. So good. So good. Wow. So, number one, I am so conflict adverse or conflict averse. Yeah. Like, I'd rather just stay away from conflict. I would rather just, let's just keep going, kumbaya. It's okay. I'll take one on the chin, but from what you're saying, I guess it's toxic. It's a toxic trait because you should be able to communicate your frustrations to your partner, whoever it is you're in a relationship with, because that will help bring you together when you resolve those conflicts. And also, I've heard so many people say, don't enter the next relationship until you heal, right? Which makes total sense. But from what you're saying, right, there are parts of your life or parts of yourself that won't completely heal until you're in relationship with someone else, because that's when all of those hurts get exposed and poked. I think that's really powerful. And so where should that balance be? Is there things about yourself? And I also want to ask, maybe based on your experience and maybe whatever in the past, your past relationships, toxic relationships, was there anyone that completely broke you to the extent, and maybe for someone who is listening, where you felt like, man, I can't put myself out there anymore. I can't give myself to anyone. I don't trust people. Just stay away. How can one come out of that mindset?
That's a really good question. So, fortunately for me, I never got to that point. I always had a strong, since my first, I don't want to say since my first relationship, since I was maybe 17 or 18, because my first relationship was when I was 16. I mean, of course, when you're 16, it's not the most super in-depth relationship. You're not that mature. But at the really core of everything, I never got to the point where it's like, I'm not worthy because this happened, or I can never love again, or I don't trust people. Because I think for me, it was more of not trusting myself, because I would notice certain negative patterns in my partners or just unsatisfaction. And I'd let that slide and let that go. And then it would create a deeper wound within me of just like, I'm just going to put up with BS. Like, it's just what's going to happen. And so the breaking point for me was, it actually took two relationships, one of which was a year and a half and the other which was 6 months. The first year and a half one was the end of that relationship. It was interesting. It's kind of the opposite of the question you're asking, at least in the context of for someone else. It wasn't as a result of me not trusting her, but me not trusting myself, because there were certain things that I did in which I told her, like, I'll change, I'll improve. And I couldn't. Not that I couldn't, but that I wasn't mature enough or aware enough to actually connect to what I needed to do to change that. And so, long story short with that, towards the beginning of us interacting in the dating sense, I would hook up with other girls. And I was always honest with her about it. So that was my excuse. It's like, well, I'm being honest with her about it. Like, it's fine. Like, I'm not hiding anything. I'm being honest, because that was my big thing. And like, that was the integration process, because my father always taught me to be honest. And so I connected to that to a certain degree. But sometimes honesty can be used for manipulation, as it was in this case. And so anyway, eventually I stopped doing that, and I'm like, okay, I just want to be with you now. And then we were together officially. But, of course, because I created a wound within her, and I kept doing that, and because, of course, from the beginning, although she was okay with me doing it, she wasn't actually okay with me doing it, because she wanted me, so she was willing to put up with me doing that, but it created such a big wound within her that once we were in a relationship, she could never trust me. And so it's like, she always thought I was going to cheat. I genuinely wasn't going to. But I can understand as to why she never could get past that, because, like, I don't think I would have gotten past it either. And so then my next relationship was about over a year later. I took that time, didn't interact. I went on like 1 or 2 dates, didn't really interact with any girls at all. And that was the most, I think about it as the karmic spiritual cycle. I had that relationship in which I could say I kind of treated her badly. And then this next relationship was the complete opposite, and full circle of what I needed to see within myself and how insecure I was to finally start to heal and stop and develop deep values for myself. So that next relationship, this was when I started coaching at this point. I started building up my clientele a little bit, started building the business, and she didn't care at all about what I did. She's like, I don't understand what you do for work. And then from me, I was like, it's fine that you don't understand, but like, you don't care to understand. She's like, I don't get it. And it was just this huge disconnected process, but I kept trying to change her. And so this was the whole cycle. My last partner tried to change me. Now I'm trying to change this girl. And so it comes full circle. So anyway, of course, you can't change people in a relationship. Who they want to be is who they want to be. And if they're not who you want them to be or need them to be, you need to let them go and move on to somebody else. But anyway, I spent 6 months trying to change her, and I never could. And so I created an even deeper wound and within me of just like feeling like I'm unworthy, because I left that relationship feeling completely broken. And after it was just I had this realization about a week after me and her broke up, and I'm just like, that relationship made me feel like I was nothing. And it's interesting, right? Because Brad, self-development coach, building up his clientele, building a business, and I'm feeling like this, and I'm doing really the opposite of what some coach should be doing and what I should be tolerating. So anyway, it was a real wake-up call for me. And so I then got obsessed with studying the intricacies of relationships, and then kind of the darker side of human nature and manipulation, and how I've done it, how people done it to me, and how this manifests, and how in all of my relationships I can never truly connect to somebody because of all the walls that I had put up as well. And so to get to the root of the question of how you start to heal from feeling like you can't trust people, there's 8 billion people on this planet, and you've been in one relationship. Maybe let's say you've been in 10 relationships. 10 people is not a good representation of every human being on this planet. And so at a certain point, there also develops a pattern. And at a certain point, you're choosing not to trust people. And you're just taking all of the past experiences and dumping them onto people who are healthy for you. So here's the problem, is when you don't heal, you meet the person that's right for you and you completely reject them at the core level, and then you sabotage everything. And so I was actually working with one of my clients who's in his 40s, and he was in over 10 relationships, and in every single one of them you'd find himself getting cheated on. It's like, okay, you get cheated on once or twice. It's like, okay, there's certain things here it could be completely representative of the other person. It could be because certain needs weren't being met. There's a lot of intricacies. But then I'm like, hold on. If this happens 10 times, you don't just get cheated on 10 times. You're neglecting something, and you're allowing things to happen. And so it manifests in your choice in partners as well. It's like after that, something like that happens 2 or 3 times, you're just choosing to not look at certain things. And so with a lot of these things, we need to look at ourselves and say, what part am I rejecting in myself? And because also, when you don't trust other people, think about how much you trust yourself. Usually not that much. There's usually not that many core values in place where it's like, I trust myself to get the amount of work done each day I want to get done. I trust myself to build up my happiness. I trust myself to try and make more money. You don't. And that's why you don't trust anybody else. And also, look, it makes sense because a lot of these experiences, because a ton of people have done us wrong. So it's created a subconscious program in our mind of like, I just can't trust people. It's a protective mechanism. Problem is, once you meet the people that are right for you, your protective mechanism soon becomes your one-step shop to misery for the rest of your life if you don't heal it. This is the thing, like, I've been connecting to a lot more with my clients recently, is relationships are serious. Dating is very serious. There's a playful aspect and flirtatious aspect to dating always, and there needs to be that. But dating is serious. Like, who you choose, I was thinking about this morning, actually. Your relationship partner either helps you grow or they help you fall. There is no in between. There is no we're comfortable, we're stagnant. Yep. Maybe there is for a week, and then you're going down to the depths, or you're being brought up. And so when you don't trust other people, you have to ask yourself how much you trust yourself. And you also have to do a really deep reflection on all of the people that have hurt you and come to the deep realization that not every human being is like this. And also maybe that you're just bad at choosing romantic partners, because that could be something too. And so, but of course, every time, if anyone gets cheated on, if anything toxic happens to someone, what do we want to do? You want to blame the other person. Fair play. Like I haven't been cheated on, but I would probably do the same thing the second it happens to me. I think it's only a natural response. But in all of our relationship issues, putting that aside, we just like to project onto other people, and everything that people are reflecting in ourselves, we just pretend that it's just them. It's like, no, this is, like we were talking before, we get triggered for a reason. It's something internal. Yeah. So, yeah, sometimes you neglect. Sometimes there's certain manipulative things that someone does at the beginning of a relationship, and then you just ignore that. Like, for example, one of my clients has been seeing someone for a while, and everything is so romantic about it. Everything seems so perfect. There's actual healing being done. There's actual wounds and insecurities being faced together, and there's love there and care and affection and beautiful experience. And there's also an incredible amount of neglect, because what the person he's talking to is saying is, like, I'm just not ready for a relationship. But, like, I see this happening in a few years. It's like, hold on a second here. We're rejecting everything about what's right in front of you. And so, I'm talking to my client about it. It's just like, how much longer are you willing to put up with this? Because I'll tell you, from general experience, in observing other people like that don't change. And the reason I know that is because I was that person. In that last
Mm.
relationship I said for a year and a half, she tried to get me to change. But if you don't truly, and here's the thing with change or helping someone grow and evolve in a relationship,
Yeah.
if you notice something about them, you point it out, and they
Mhm.
accept that there's something that they can improve upon, beautiful.
Mhm.
And then they do it and they integrate it, beautiful. But they need to truly connect to it. So I'll give you another example. In that relationship that was 6 months, that was very not good for me. A whole rejection of a manifestation of myself and what I need in a partner is she would vape all the time. And I've always thought vaping is absolutely disgusting. And I'm like, I'm not going to. And so anyway, towards the beginning of us starting to talk, I said to
Mhm.
her, and if you ever have to give an ultimatum in a relationship, it's either not meant to be or you're too far gone. There's so many things you've been neglecting. So anyway, I had to give the ultimatum at the beginning of the relationship, which biggest red flag that I couldn't recognize, or maybe a part of me did, but didn't fully internalize it. And also, we have to ask ourselves: the toxic people that you're attracted to, what part of them do you actually like? What part of it actually turns you on? What part of it
Exactly. What
actually
part of it
makes you
is
feel
comforting?
comfortable?
It's familiar to
Exactly.
you. Yeah.
Exactly. And so at the beginning of that relationship, I said there, in order for us to be together, you have to stop vaping. I'm not going to be around you when you do this.
Mhm.
And so what did she do? She stopped vaping for about 2, 3 months. But here's the problem. She never truly connected to why she was doing it. She did it just for me. And if your partner just does something for you, that's a problem. If they do it at first for you, and then they realize, okay, yeah, I'm glad Brad or so and so had me quit this addiction because now my life is so much better. Beautiful,
Mhm.
that's the integrated process. But if the situation happened with her, which is if I tell her to do that, which again, you should never have to tell people in your relationships to do
Yeah.
something. She never connected to it. So 2, 3 months go down the line. She's like, oh, my friends are telling me to vape. And I got to the point where I'm just like, all right, fine, just do it. I was never okay with that, but it's like
Mhm.
I gave up because it's like
Yeah.
all the time I'm just being bombarded. You can't connect to this, and it was just me neglecting myself as well. Because every time you reject a partner, you reject a part of your partner is also you rejecting a
Mhm.
part of yourself.
Yeah.
And so those are a lot of things to interact with in that department.
Wow, that is awesome. Fantastic. Thanks for sharing that story. Thanks. So, you mentioned briefly about the dark side of humanity or dark side of humans in relationships. Can you talk a bit about that? And also, how can you overcome insecurity, self doubt, and build confidence, especially after such a bad relationship like the one you experienced? And, how do you come out of it? But I want to hear about the dark side of human nature first.
Okay, so dark side of human nature. So, especially in relationships, how this manifests, kind of similarly to the conversation we're having, there's a lot of unconscious manipulation that we all do to a certain degree until we become
Mhm.
aware of it. It's like I'm gonna unconsciously show my partner that I'm angry, but I never use
Mhm.
my words to tell them that I'm angry, right? And so then that creates deeper resentment, and then there's a lot of bigger issues going on. And here's the also other interesting concept that goes along with this. We all think because we're an adult body that we are not
Mhm.
children anymore. We are all still
Mhm.
children. And so just think about the conception of that idea. I'm angry. I'm 20 years old. I'm 30. I'm 40. I'm 50. I'm married. I'm angry. And I'm not using my words. It's like, what do you tell a kid? Like, use your words, right? It's
Yeah.
like, we're not using our words. So this is also usually a deep manifestation of wounds from childhood sometimes. And there's also, I think, the darkest side of human nature is all of the things that we're capable of that we pretend and reject about ourselves. People talk about shadow work a lot nowadays, and some people talk about like you just need to get rid of these dark parts of yourself. No, they need to be integrated. And what integrated really means is being aware that you have the capacity to be incredibly dangerous, hurtful, resentful, and spiteful. And
Hmm.
analyzing that and looking at the past times in which you were and realizing how it never served you. And so the integration process of that is analyzing these emotions when they come up because they're human emotions. We don't want to
Mhm.
reject these, especially. And here's, I don't want to touch on religion too much, but certain religious ideals are like they're incredible, but sometimes we can use them to actually neglect ourselves. And so it's like, well, I'm religious, so like I just love everyone. Whereas like secretly you're like, oh well, because this person's not religious, like there's something off with them. It's like, well, that you're trying to connect to the ideal of not judging people, but you're judging people, and you're neglecting
Yeah.
yourself that you're even judging people in the first place. So anyway, we do this in our relationships. We reject the fact that we're rejecting other people and that we're rejecting ourselves. And so the integration process is really looking at all of these insecurities that we have and how they
Mhm.
manifest in our relationships and how we constantly take them out on our partner and expect them to just know what's going on internally. Similarly to the conversation we were having before, you should just read my mind. It's like, well, no, because I don't have the ability to do that, at least not from my perceptive experience so far. And so we have to use our words. And
Yeah.
there's certain realms of communication in which you don't use words. Like if we're talking about, if you're in your relationship and you're talking about
Mm,
sexual desire, for example, it's like you don't
mhm.
necessarily have to go to your partner and say, hey, do you want to do this? Like you guys just do it because it's a shared body language experience where you can read each other. But
Yeah.
you need to be connected to each other and connected to yourself to be able to do that. So, and here's the dark side. There's so many dark sides of human nature, but especially in the dating capacity, we have a lot more men nowadays that are very weak, that are very unintegrated, that are very, women are a lot more fearful nowadays because there's a lot of
Mhm.
men that are very creepy, they're very manipulative, and what they say doesn't ever line up with their actions, and
Mhm.
and also men that don't know how to communicate, but they try and communicate in a way, but they don't know how to communicate, so it just comes off as
Mhm.
weird. And so the dark side is that if we're not taught how to do these things, they
Mhm.
manifest themselves in very dark ways.
Mhm.
And so we oftentimes don't acknowledge that we are sometimes that person. Like that,
Right.
it's like, oh, maybe I'm the creepy guy, or maybe I'm
Mhm.
the girl that keeps neglecting all the guys around me because they're not 6'4" and make $100,000 a minute. It's like
Mhm.
maybe I'm the one who's rejecting these other people. So everything that you reject in other people, you have to ask yourself why, and what's the standard that I have for myself, and is it really a standard? Because there's a whole nother conversation. A lot of the people that talk in modern dating, people talk about standards. Most people's definition of a standard, and more importantly, examples of a standard, is not a
Mhm.
standard at all. It's just this excuse to project yourself onto the ideal, but be nothing that would ever be desirable to that person. So, for example, we see a lot of girls in interviews say, like, I want a guy who's 6'8" and he makes $100,000 a month, and he does this and he takes me on trips, and she's like not only not very physically attractive, but the way she presents herself is just not attractive. And it's like you're expecting all of this from someone. It's like, oh, well, what are you going to do for him? Or like, what do you people like? And this is, we can kind of get into that after, but the dark side also of modern self-help, and how it's like
Mhm.
they'll just be like, oh, like they like to, a lot of the modern self-help guys like to demonize women, and then be like, they ask them the question like, oh, what do you bring to the table because you want this much from a guy?
Mhm.
And listen, some of the
Mhm.
some of the girls are like, oh, I just bring me to the table. It's like, what do you mean? What is special about you? Nothing.
Mhm.
So why would I want you? And same thing goes for guys. Like guys that are expecting to just get into a relationship and have women, because that's like a lot of the men I work with. It's like women, they're just rejecting me. Like it's like, are you even like, look at the way you're presenting yourself. Look at
Mhm.
the level of your physical attractiveness. And look, can you change your facial structure? Yeah, if you get plastic surgery, I'd advise very
Mhm.
much against doing that and actually working on the insecurity
Your
within you that makes
internal.
you feel like you're not even good enough. And there's so
Mhm.
many things you can do. Like, for example, I grew out my beard a lot like over a few years ago, and I didn't really like the way that it looked. And
Mhm.
so it's like, okay, shave your beard, get a haircut, kind of clean up your body. It's like there's so many things you can do to make yourself more physically attractive and also
Mhm.
mentally, spiritually, emotionally attractive as well. And
Mhm.
we also need to, the emotional unavailability piece in the dark side of
Mhm.
human nature. A lot of us are very emotionally unavailable. We
Mhm.
can't communicate what we're feeling. We can't even accept within ourselves that we're feeling something. And men have such a problem with this that this has manifested itself in my life too, and something I've started to integrate, which is sometimes I feel something and I don't
Mhm.
even know what it is. Like I'm just sitting there and I'm just like, I don't know how to interact with this. And it's like, 'cause, the societal norm for men is, well, you got to man up, you got to be stoic, you got to provide,
Yeah.
and so we just
Mhm.
disconnect from our humanity. That's what we're doing. Because I
True.
made like a little short video about it. It's like, okay, if that's all you have to do as a man, and that's who
Mhm.
you are at your core level, what would you be? You would be God. But guess what? You're not God, and so stop
Mhm.
pretending to be. You have to
Mhm.
acknowledge that you have emotional experiences, and sometimes the emotional experiences, especially as men, they can get very dark and they can get very
Yeah.
aggressive. And so the
True.
unintegrated man is very dangerous. And so these are the guys that you see if you go out to a bar one night, or you go out to a club, and they're just picking fights with people. They're drinking too much. These are the men that are very dangerous. But here's the thing: like it's important for a man to
Mhm.
be dangerous, but
Mhm.
the integration process, because that's the dark side of human nature, to be able to kill
Mhm.
someone, for example. None of us want to ever have to do that, but you should be
Mhm.
able, especially as a man, to have the capacity to do it if, God forbid, you had to do it, right? But you're not going around trying to express that part of yourself. So the whole dark side of human nature is the unintegrated parts of ourselves. When we integrate them, we don't shame ourselves that we have the capacity to do really deep, dark, and ugly things. But we know
Mhm.
that if we needed to, we could. And most of the time, that there's going to be there's most of the time we're never going to have to interact with a certain level of that. But certain situation happens, you're with your wife, you're with your partner, someone tries to do something, it's like, you got to defend her. It's like, so you have the capacity, and that's really the integration process around all this, is acknowledging and not shaming yourself for having, because like intrusive thoughts, for example, like we shame ourselves for that all the time. It's like, I had a thought that like I wanted to hurt someone, or it's like, oh, that, and I like, I was working with someone who like, he's like, he not even doesn't have like a clinical diagnosis, but it's like we're diagnosing ourselves. It's like, oh, I'm just this. Like, I went to one counselor and they said like I'm revealing tendencies about this. Like, I'm like, hold on, like let's not jump to it. I'm not a medical doctor, so I'm not diagnosing you. But before you go to a psychiatrist, like don't diagnose yourself. Like, let's take a step back and just analyze what's going on here. And so, if you have an intrusive thought, if you have something where it's like, oh, I have a thought that I want to hurt someone or lie to them or cheat or steal, it's like, don't shame yourself for that. It just needs to be integrated, and understand that these, like, I would say in my life, I'm becoming a very integrated individual. I'm very honest as much as I can be and things of that nature. And sometimes I have a thought that's not honest, right? And it's like, this is simply the human brain and its natural operation. And that's why I think religion and ideals are beautiful to work towards, because they're shining a light on what we're capable of as human beings. But if we boil ourselves just down to our biology, and this is like the integration of this is the animal and the spirit. We're very spiritual beings. We're also very animalistic. We need to acknowledge both of these parts of ourselves. Because if you're just an animal and do things based on your immediate external emotions and experiences, things get dangerous very quickly and you're not really thinking. If you're just spiritual, well, then you're going to let people walk all over you. Because it's like, well, everyone's just a nice person. It's like, no, they're not. We have to be aware, even though you're reaching the ideal and you're very religious or you love being kind to people, you have to acknowledge a lot of people aren't doing that. And so they will hurt you with no remorse. And it's like, be aware of that. Don't stoop down to that level and do it, but be aware that people are capable of that, and that also you are capable of it too. That way you can, bring your consciousness into the equation so you don't do it. So I think those are kind of, in the terms of the dark side of human nature, just a few things to start to ponder about for ourselves.
Interesting. That's so deep. That's deep. So we're very complex as humans.
Oh, yeah.
We're not just one. We're not what's the right word to use now? There's so many sides to us, and we need to be aware of all of those sides and work all of those sides. And I'm a Christian. I'm spiritual. I'm religious, and I think when it comes to that, I think the Bible even talks about like the sin in man, right? So it says our righteousness is like filthy rags before God. So we can, like, no man is truly good on the inside. There's really, really some dark stuff within us, and just being able to acknowledge that and present it to God and work towards, getting weeding all of those out. It's very important. And then being smart as well, like you said. People are mean, people are horrible, not everyone is kind. So I'm just knowing how to relate with people in that sense. Okay, awesome. Thanks so much for digging into all of that. So how can we get help, right? How can we overcome our insecurity, self-doubt, self-sabotaging? Because a lot of people self-sabotage. I sometimes do it, right? Things are looking too good. I'm like, it's too good to be true. I'm going to, just unconsciously, subconsciously, just make things go out of whack because I'm scared of maybe success or, just having that good thing come to me. How can people walk through that and overcome those type of issues in their life?
That's a really good question. So our self-image, I heard this from someone, our self-image and our self-worth lags behind, no, our success lags behind our self-image and self-worth. So if your self-worth is a 3 out of 10 and your success starts to reach a 5 out of 10, your success will start to go below very soon because you don't have the capacity to maintain that. And so this is the whole, what you're talking about, of the self-sabotage piece of, and all of the, like, those are, they're limiting beliefs of like, this is too good to be true. And they're also, a lot of them are superstitious that are instilled within us from our parents and from our culture and being brought up. It's like the whole, like me and my girlfriend talk about this all the time. Like sometimes when, if we say something, she'll be like, oh, knock on wood. Like, I'm just like, this is such BS. Like, this is not reality, but we're creating that reality for ourselves. And so what we really want to acknowledge is that these are limiting beliefs and that they aren't serving us. And we have to ask ourselves, like, why do I feel so comfortable holding on to things that don't serve me? Well, it's of course because everybody around me is doing it. And then we have to ask ourselves, who am I surrounding myself by? And how do they view the world? And how do they project that onto me? And sometimes these people are our parents. Sometimes they're our childhood friends. Sometimes they're our romantic relationship partner of 15 years. And this isn't to say those people are wrong, but no, it's like sometimes like these things are like, especially the superstitious stuff, this is generational. Like this is just stuff that's passed out. This is just the way it is. And so it's like, that's a very dismissive realm, and especially like cultural conversations. It's like, oh, this is just the way we do things. It's like, why? Why do we do it like this? And is there an actual purpose behind it, or this is just the tradition? And so that's also the power of questioning things. So in the self-sabotage, we want to question what's been instilled within us. We also want to question ourselves. It's like, how much of what I believe is actually true? How much
Mm-hmm.
of all the things we're talking about, how much of the people that I don't trust and how much of the parts of myself that I don't trust, how much of it is actually true?
Mm-hmm.
And really diving into, am I being completely honest with myself? Like, why am I not as productive as I want to be? Why am I not building my business or making more money at my job? Or why am I so afraid to ask for that raise? And here's the other thing, like, because if we don't feel worthy of it, we're not going to be able to do it. You can consciously want to do better for yourself, but if your
Mm-hmm.
subconscious programming is stuck, everything will float it back to you. So anyway, I was on a Q&A session with in my group coaching practice the other day, and one of my clients asked, we were talking about journaling a lot, and how journaling can be really good for processing past pain and things of that nature, and working through all these things. And we're having that conversation, and then one of my clients unmutes, and he's like, I've just been journaling recently, and it's just not working. And so one of the things that we talked about is like, journaling is only the reflective piece, so it's only the first part, and so then the action needs to be taken to fully integrate these things. But also, journaling, if your subconscious isn't allowing you to interact with certain parts of yourself, journaling can only get you so far. Because what's going to happen is when you pick up the piece of pen and you go on the paper, you're going to realize that there's going to be some uncomfortable thoughts that come up for about a split second. And since your brain is so uncomfortable facing that part of yourself, you're going to take it, you're going to throw it in the garbage, and you're say, let's focus on this thing that I'm struggling with instead. But you're not really struggling that much with it. So now for your entire journaling session, you're interacting with that and not the actual root of the thing. So one of my pieces of guidance for him was, it's like, next time you journal, ask yourself what part of yourself that you're neglecting, and which part of yourself comes up that you refuse to interact with and write about because it's too dark, it's too ugly, it's too uncomfortable, it's not socially acceptable, there's nobody else is dealing with this, it's only me. And then you feel like you're isolating yourself, when, especially the group of men that I coach, it's what we all realize is like, hey, all the stuff you're going through, everyone else is dealing with this too. Everyone's just too afraid to talk about it. And so the self-sabotage really comes down to us not being honest with ourselves. We pretend we're not insecure. We pretend we don't have wounds. We pretend everything's okay and we're better than we actually are. When you start being honest with yourself of where you're actually at, that's the first step to actually making a ton of progress. And so you have to be completely honest with yourself. It's like, if your life is in the gutter in its totality, or just certain areas, it's like, why? And is it really serving me to keep blaming everybody else and the things that they're doing for me? Or do I need to really address myself? And it's like, well, why do I put up with these things that people do to me? And why do I keep engaging with these people that treat me like crap? It's like, what am I doing to, because it's like the extreme ownership conversation. It's like, we need to take responsibility for our lives because nobody else is going to do it. I mean, if you don't confront yourself for the rest of your life, things are going to go unconfronted, and they're constantly going to manifest themselves in all these relationships. So also with procrastination, you got to ask yourself, like, how much of this is me? Like, why am I distracting myself? Why do I pick up my phone and scroll for 4 hours instead of work on this? Why can I not have this conversation with my partner? It's because I'm afraid of what's going to happen. And these are often deep insecurities. Well, I'm afraid to have this conversation with my partner and confront them because they're going to, I feel like they're going to leave me if I do so, or they're going to look at me differently, or they're going to feel like I'm not enough. And this is something I've been integrating a lot recently, because for all of my past romantic relationships, I refused to be vulnerable and open and emotionally transparent with the women that I was interacting with, because it's, well, I have to be a man, I have to be stoic, and she's going to view me differently and less of a man if I do so. And then I'm now in my relationship, the most incredibly fulfilling relationship I've ever been in my entire life. And I talk about my insecurities all the time. When something comes up, we have a conversation about it. Now, it's not in a crybaby sense of like, oh babe, like I feel so insecure. It's just like, hey, this is what's coming up for me now. This is what I feel. Let's have a conversation about it. And then we kind of dive into it together. And so we need to be more open, not only with other people, because you don't want to be open with absolutely everyone, because certain people
Yeah.
most definitely aren't to be trusted. But the most important first step is being, how open and honest are you being with yourself? Because if you're not being open and honest with yourself, all of that neglect is going to manifest itself in all of your relationships, romantic partners, family relationships, friendships, co-working relationships, all the dynamics. And you're going to think that it's just everybody else's fault and you're just surrounded by the wrong people, when really you just keep projecting yourself onto everyone else. But also, sometimes you are surrounded by the wrong people. There's also that case too.
Yeah. That's so true. So, will you say this relationship has helped you become more authentic? Because how can, for someone who is listening, what's your advice like for people to become being more authentic, truer version of themselves and not just pretend? Because I feel like there's a lot of pretense in today's world.
Yeah, you really have to look at the intentionality that you have in your dating experience, and are you dating to be genuinely long-term with someone, or are you dating just to do it? Because that's what I was doing previously. I was like, oh, I'm just dating just to do it. And then after that last relationship ended, an important piece here is develop the foundational core values for yourself when you're single. But if you're currently in a relationship, you can also integrate these things. But it's like you have to get really serious and intentional about what you're willing to tolerate, what you're not, and what you connect to, and how that needs to be reciprocated in your partner. It's like these are needs we're talking about. And a lot of us like to, again, we don't feel like our relationships are that serious. It's like, oh, a need isn't met. Oh, it's fine, whatever. Like, oh, they don't want to do this. Like, oh, it's okay. It's not okay. Because as you allow that to be okay, you're neglecting yourself. It's like, no, this is a need of yours. And if they can't provide that for you, no need to shame them. You just might not be right for each other. And here's the unfortunate reality is a lot of people only realize this 5 years into their relationship. A lot of people only realize this after they've been married for 20 years. That's why the divorce rate is over 50%. We don't ask each other any serious questions. Me and my girlfriend have been together for 4 months. We've talked about long-term. We talked about kids. We talked about fundamental values. We've talked about what we need from each other and how we can't neglect each other ever and how we always have to be communicative and how we're going to do that. And when things come up, how we deal with them. It's like these need to be conversations you have on your first date. That's another thing. The integration process of this is having deep conversations on your first and second date. You don't want to make it so serious to the point that it's like you're just probing them with interview questions. Like there needs to be a playful, flirtatious aspect to it. So that was like my first date with my now partner was a beautiful example of that. Is we had very deep conversations and we also like just talked about lighthearted things. Like you balance it out. And so, but the most important thing is to be clear and intentional about what you desire. Because if you don't know what you want, you're going to constantly get what you don't want. And until you recognize and analyze your past experiences of what you've actually don't like realizing what you don't want, you're going to continue to meet your ex-girlfriend and ex-boyfriend with a different face and a different name. And it's going to be the same patterns over and over again. And here's the thing. Every time you get a dating experience mirroring something back to you about an insecurity within you, it's God, the universe, whatever you believe in or don't believe in, showing you this part of yourself needs to be confronted before you meet the person of your dreams. Because if you met them now, you'd be a complete mess and they would completely reject you and you would reject them. And so anyway, I tell my girlfriend all the time, it's like me and her have established like we met each other at the perfect time. It's like I went through all my past relationship experiences, she went through hers, and all of the personal situations in our lives. It's like everything led us up to that point. And because of the maturity and past experiences that we went through, and because of the bad things that happened to us, that traumatized us or made us feel insecure, because those things happened, we were able to connect that much deeper with each other. And so there's another thing. It's like anytime you feel insecure, don't reject that. It's like we just anytime we feel something, it's like get that away from me, or we get it away from us, or we just project it onto the other person. It's like no, let's have an open conversation about this because this needs to be confronted if we're going to build anything real here. And so we get into real relationships when we're real and honest with ourselves. If you have true deep core values and you're aligned and you know who you are, like dating. One of my mentors said this. He's like dating is easy mode after that. If you know who you are and you're connected to that, dating is easy. The first date you go on with someone, they're right for me, they're not. It really is that simple. My last my girlfriend, when I'm on the first date, like here's the actual interesting thing is I felt deeply insecure after that first date because it went so well, because I was so used to things not feeling perfect. And like you were saying before, the limiting beliefs of things feel like they're too good to be true for me. That was the manifestation of that. And so I went to one of my coaches and I was like, things went so well and there's no signs that she's going to leave me. And she asked me to come up and hang out with her next week. But I feel like the next time I text her, she's just not going to text me back. It's like, whoa, what's going on here? Right? It's like, this was a deep manifestation of, it's like, I believe that like, this is too good to be true. It's out of a fairy tale. It's out of a movie scene. And it's like, no, we're just interacting with reality here. And it's like, is it so hard to believe that after all of the past negative experiences that I've been through, that I took the time to heal from and integrate, and I didn't just neglect myself and just go talk to other people, and she did that too. Wouldn't it be, aren't we both deserving enough to have each other in each other's lives and finally be in a fulfilling relationship? Sometimes we feel like that's not true, and then we further neglect ourselves. And that's what, like, so any of us that notice, like, my dating experiences just aren't good, you have to analyze yourself and see, like, what part of yourself can be improved. And also, like, these people are just going to be mirroring you and the things you have to deal with until you meet that person, because that's what's going to break you. If you meet the person that's genuinely right for you, you're one in a million, and you're not integrated enough to be with them. And you still like to lie sometimes, and you still like to not be honest, and you still like to pretend this thing is okay, right? It's like, that's not going to work. And now you're going to be hopeless for dating for the rest of your life because you reach this person. And you know, it's very interesting because, you know, everyone likes to talk about, oh, everything happens for a reason. It does. And you're oftentimes that reason. Like, there's a reason these things are happening to you, and there's a reason you're having these experiences. There's something to learn and grow from there.
Yeah.
You know, me and my girlfriend were having a conversation about it. That we actually disagreed upon it. I told her, because I think there's certain opportunities that come to us, presented by God or the universe, and it's just, you have to take the action right then and there, and it's never coming back. And then there's certain other times where you make a few mistakes and then things come back. And so anyway, I met my girl at a coffee shop. I saw her out with like 4 or 5 of her friends, just went up to her, had a conversation, I got her number. And so I told her, I'm like, I could have just walked out that day and our lives would be completely different. And she's convinced that we would have met at some other point, and like she only lives like 20 minutes from me, like at some other point we would have passed each other in public, and she's so convinced. I'm like, no, that was the chance, and because we took it, now we're here. And I think that makes, at least in my perspective, that makes things even more beautiful. And so on that, it's, we need to be fully aware of why we're doing what we're doing, what we need out of our relationship partners, not clinging too much to the paper bullet points of they need to do this and that, because people are real and they're more dynamic than that. But core values of like, hey, honesty, for example. It's like, if my partner isn't honest, we can't be together, and that cannot. And here's the other thing, the last thing on this I'll say is, everyone says, and a lot of married couples say this, you always need a compromise. Never compromise. Compromise is a complete illusion, because you're compromising your soul. If you deeply don't want to do this thing, and they say, oh, we should do this thing, and you just fall over and do it, like, you're going to build up deep resentment for the relationship and them, and then that's going to manifest itself, and then your relationship is going to fall and crumble and fail. So compromise is an illusion. You need to, anytime you disagree on something, like, it's, and also, here's the thing that me and my girlfriend do sometimes, because a lot of the things we argue about in our relationships aren't that serious. And so me and my girlfriend, a lot of the time, like, oh, we agree to disagree. But also, if we ever do the agree to disagree, as the ending of the conversation, we both have to sit there and acknowledge, like, we're actually okay with this disagreeing with each other, and this isn't infringing on a core value of, I'm never going to be satisfied in the relationship because you're not doing this thing for me. So you can, because we're all different human beings. There's no possible way you can agree on everything.
How do you reach a middle ground? So, for instance, you get a job in a different city where she lives than where you live right now, and you want to move, but she doesn't want to move, right? And this job is like once in a lifetime opportunity for you, and you probably have kids now. You're married, you're settled. You know, I just feel like in relationship and maybe marriage, there has to be some compromise by someone, right? Because if both of you outrightly,
I think it's a really good point. I think there's a difference between compromise and flexibility. I think it's very important to be flexible in your relationship. And so the compromise conversation is really anything that's infringing on your core values. So the moving conversation is a little bit, okay, like, we're doing this for the family. Okay, if we're going to be making more money, we're struggling financially, this is probably the best thing to do. So you may have to be a little bit flexible with your partner and say, okay, we're going to move. So that, unless you're at a core, the core compromise would be, this is my city. This is where I want to be for the rest of my life. And we've had that conversation, and now you want to move. Like, that's a problem. But if we never said, like, we need to be here and we're settling down here for the rest of our lives, and we're like, hey, we need to move right now, it's like, all right, if we're going to be with each other for the rest of our lives, like, maybe I should be a little bit flexible here. So, yeah, I think that's, the compromise is infringing on core values. Flexibility is, yeah, sometimes there's going to be certain things that I have to ease up to. And really what that is dropping your ego. It's like dropping your ego and being like, okay, I can, and also, and that's the important thing, is to truly connect to it. Is like, if you're going to move, like, be okay, like, come have a very deep intellectual in-depth conversation of logistics, finances, and so on and so forth. And like, do we need to move? If we, and like, because that's the thing, if it's a logistic thing, if we're just struggling to get by, and this is going to help us, like, get by, it's like, why would we not do that? Like, and then you may cling to, like, oh, I'm comfortable here, living here. It's like, hey, I get that. But it's like, I think if you both want to get better financially and it's just that holding you back, if you're a little bit flexible with it, then you realize once you move, okay, it wasn't bad, and actually I enjoy this more, and I can connect to this now. But the most important thing is that you do connect to the flexibilities that you're doing, because compromise at its core is compromising yourself. Doing things, being open and flowy is also very good sometimes. So that's what I would say about that kind of specific scenario.
Yeah. I understand what you mean about compromise too. Like, just your core values, you shouldn't compromise on that. But other things, yeah, you should be flexible. Okay, awesome. Wow, this has been, I can't believe we've done, oh wow, it's been a wonderful conversation. I feel like I've been learning so much, just
I love to hear it.
hearing you speak these words. Yeah, thank you so much. So where can people find you? How can people engage with your work? All of that good stuff. Can you let us know?
Absolutely. So you could reach me on Instagram at Mighty Brad Official. You could also shoot me a text or call on my phone number at 732-744-6749. Also on YouTube, it's Mighty Brad. Snapchat, also if you're of the younger generation, is BGLANTZ3. And in terms of that's where you can check out all of the content. And then in terms of actual coaching and the work that I do, there's links to booking a call with me or shoot me a DM that you're interested and we can just have a
Mhm.
conversation, or if you just want some free advice on anything, like just shoot me a DM about your personal situation, we'll just talk about it. So best way to reach me would definitely be phone number or Instagram, but any other platform is welcome as well. And so, yeah, thank you so much for having me on. This has been a wonderful conversation, and you've asked some incredible questions, really expanding my mind and getting me very creative too.
Yeah, no, thank you. I think I learned so much. This was a very eye-opening episode for me as well. So, Brad, if you will send me all your details, and I'll add it to the show notes of the podcast and also the YouTube description, so people can reach you. Do you have any final word before we close the curtain?
I would say if you're struggling with something, don't be afraid to reach out. Not
Mhm,
necessarily to me, but to anybody anyone you're close to, because you're
mhm,
not alone in what you're going through. All of these deep insecurities, and when we feel like we're not good enough and we have all these limiting beliefs, you're not the only one going through this. You're just the only.
mhm,
But it's the most courageous thing to do to start to open up the conversation around it, because everybody feels these things. Most people are just too afraid to start to interact and engage with them. So if you can start to interact and engage with it for yourself, you can bet that you're going to create the best possible life for yourself and help everybody
mhm.
around yourself do so as well.
Wow. Well said. Well said. Wow. Thank you so much, Brad. Thanks once again. I had an enjoyable moment
Thank you so
talking to
much.
you. Thank you. Thank you so much, viewers, for watching, for listening. Hope you enjoyed this episode. Please engage with Brad's work. Go to his YouTube. I went to his YouTube channel. Fantastic content there. Just nice short videos where he gives powerful information. So please connect to that. Connect to his Instagram, his Snapchat. Reach out to him to book your appointment or whatever. But yeah, thank you so much. Thanks for watching. Please leave us a review, like, comment, subscribe. Keep coming back for more wonderful episode and appreciate you. Thank you so much. Bye bye.